Good morning. Hi, it's Pammie, and I'm back with another episode of Locs Talk. This is part 2 of frequently asked question Q&A on Locs Talk, and I'm going to talk about loose natural hair today. So sit tight and let's talk about it on this week's Locs Talk. Welcome. Come on in. You know, I'm over here flinging my butterflies around because I got them from my friend who sells Paparazzi jewelry under CTJewelsNYC, and I love my butterflies. So I said, I'm going to wear my butterflies this week. Okay, so let's get into what this is. Welcome back to Locs Talk. Come on in, sit down, get comfortable. I'm going to answer some questions that I had surveyed people to ask that they would like to know my answers to. Now, again, my answers are my answers. It is not etched in stone, so please don't take anything that I say or share with you today as a way to challenge another loctician or hair care specialist. I just have my methods like they have theirs, okay? So let's get started with our questions. Again, these are questions asked by my viewers. So some of them you might be like, oh, that's, But for me, no question is a stupid question except for the one that you failed to ask. So if you need the answer, I'm here to give it to you. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so the first question is a pretty straightforward question because I think this is an issue that a lot of people have with their natural hair is how often they moisturize their hair on a daily basis. You know, because they like the fro and they like the hair as it grows up and out. However, they want a more refined curl pattern, and part of that, in order for you to really show off your texture and your curl pattern, you do have to provide moisture to your hair. That is not the only reason why moisture is important on your hair, though. Moisture is also important because without it, your hair can get dehydrated and very dry and start to break out. Now, your moisture routine, it varies. For some people, it depends on what your hair texture and density and all those different things are, and your hair porosity. That determines how often you should be moisturizing your hair. If you have low porosity hair, loose natural hair, then you don't have to moisturize every single day, because once you get moisture in there, it kind of stays in there for a while before it starts feeling dry again. So you need to do a really good moisture with low porosity hair. And once it's done, you can manage to get through a few days before you have to do it again. What a lot of people with low porosity hair, because the cuticles are laying flat on their hair strands, it's very hard for moisture to get in there. So things like steaming would be great for making sure moisture gets into your hair and things like that. And using thinner type moisturizers like leave-in spray moisturizers and things like that, because it helps it to absorb and get into the hair better. Or a light cream moisturizer, but not too heavy. That's going to weigh down or build up on the hair. Medium porosity hair happens to be the easiest hair to maintain with moisture because the cuticles are slightly open, so moisture can get into the hair easier, and it's not so wide open that it's going to fall back out, so it holds on to it for a good amount of time. So with that, every couple of days. Low porosity hair, typically you'll have to moisturize almost every day, if not every day, because the cuticles are wide open and the water goes in just as fast as it comes out. It's like a sea sponge. I don't know if you've ever seen a sea sponge. When you submerge it in water, it absorbs water very quickly. And as soon as you lift it out, you don't even have to squeeze it. 90% of the water falls out of the sponge, and when you squeeze it, that last little 10% comes out. But for the most part, it falls back out on its own because the pores are so huge and wide and open. versus a commercial sponge that has a little teeny tiny portion, and you got to really squeeze and work to get whatever is inside of it out. Okay, so if you want to use a commercial sponge as a example of what low porosity is, it's that you got to work hard to get moisture to come out once it's in there. Okay, so yeah. The second question, it kind of bounces off of the first question. You know, what should I use? Again, with low porosity hair, I recommend using more liquid-based moisturizers or very light cream moisturizer. With medium porosity hair, you can get away with using a nice cream or, you know, but not too thick moisturizer on your hair. And always, when you're putting a cream moisturizer, you should always start with the ends and work your way up, you know, and working your fingers through your hair, you know, little sections at a time. Don't put a big chunk of it and just slap it on top of your head. Section your hair. Make sure you are working with one section at a time, starting with the ends and working your way up towards the roots, because the moisture is more for your hair than your roots. Your roots you can moisturize daily also, but you want to keep it light. I use aloe vera gel or aloe vera refresher spray to moisturize my roots. And then I seal it in with a nice light conditioning oil. Nothing too heavy that's going to clog my pores or anything. So yeah. And then with with high porosity hair, preferably I would use a more dense, creamy moisturizer to try to help it stay in longer. However, if you have high porosity hair, it's still that risk of your hair becoming dry very quickly because the cuticles being open so wide. So your hair porosity plays a major factor in how often you moisturize your hair, as well as with what. Okay. Okay, now washing your hair is no different from when I tell my lock clients, wash your hair often. Now, I'm going to actually do a video about how often is often and how often is too often. When I say wash your hair often, I don't mean wash your hair every day or every couple of days. Okay? And this is for my loose, natural, and lock community. If your hair is type 3 or higher, I'm not going to say A, B, or C. If it's type 3 or higher, in some cases too. If you have curly, thicker density and texture of hair, the thicker your hair is, the least often you should be washing it. If you wash your hair too often, then you're stripping your hair of the natural essence of oil that's being created by your body and your scalp and your skin. And then there's nothing to protect your hair. So your hair can become very dry and brittle and fall out. So how often? My high recommendation for loose natural hair is to wash your hair every other week. If you can't do that, then I break it down to a math. Every 10 days, every 10 to 12 days, you should be washing your hair. You should not exceed 4 weeks or 30 days. That is then putting you at risk of, clogged hair follicles and damaged scalp and, seborrheic dermatitis buildup or psoriasis or any other scalp disorders that cause, outbreaks and pain and sores and bacterial infections and stuff like that. And that's a whole nother conversation. My recommendation is bi-weekly. However, if you feel like you need to wash your hair more often because maybe you work out and you sweat a lot and all of that stuff, still once a week. In between those washes, you can refresh your scalp. There's dry ways to treat your scalp and make sure that it stays fresh. and your hair so that it doesn't have an odor or anything like that. All right. How do you treat your dry scalp? That is an excellent question. So I'm going to jump right out the gate and say you do not treat dry scalp with oil. I hear people say, oh, my scalp and my hair is so dry and I oil it. And no matter how much oil I put on it, my hair is just so dry. And then I'm going to tell you why. The reason for it is because you're sealing in dryness. Oil is more of a sealant than a moisturizer. You know, I think because oil is also seen to be a lubricant that, as you know, considered lubrication, moisture. But when you're talking about moisturizing your hair, it is something that requires a water-based moisturizer. And then you could seal that water-based moisturizer in with a minimum amount of oil. So again, think about when you're thirsty. You're not going to drink a glass of oil, right? So the same goes for your hair and your scalp. If you have dry skin and dry scalp, you're not going to go ahead and throw oil on top of that. I even learned that with my skin on my face and my hands and things like that. I used to put oil on my skin when my skin felt dry, and then less than 2 hours later, I'm ashy again, and I'm like, what is going on here? And of all people, I found out from my eye doctor. He was like, don't put oil on your hands when your hands are dry. And then you rub your eyes, and that's why your eyes are irritated. So that's how the conversation came up. He said, when your hands are dry, use moisturizer to keep your hands from being dry. So I use aloe vera gel, you know, to moisturize my hands. And you see, see my skin. Look at my skin glowing. I don't have oil on my skin. I put moisturizer even when I wash my face in the morning. I'll wash my face with my face cleaner, and I'll put my serum on it to even out all of the blemishes and stuff. Then I have my aloe gel. Boop, 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 and rub it into my face. So moisture is moisturized with a water base products, and that, yeah, okay. Now we get more into the nitty gritty of some of the things that I do. Like most of my clients come to me for. The question was, what is a protective style? Now, generally, most people would say, oh, a protective style is any style that you put in your hair that you're not manipulating your own hair. But there's more to that, okay? A protective style has a purpose. It is to protect your hair. So if you have damaged hair and then you do a protective style on top of that damaged hair, that is not going to stop the damage. A protective style is intended to specifically protect the ends of your hair. So, you know, because you have people say, oh, my hair doesn't grow. I don't know why my hair doesn't grow. Baby, your hair does grow. However, the ends of it may be breaking as fast as your hair is growing. And that is where the problem comes in, because people don't realize that too much manipulation to your hair with that lack moisture and things like that causes the hair to become dry, brittle, and start to break off. And if your hair is growing, you know, at a rate and breaking off, your hair could be breaking off faster than your hair is growing. And that's why you have this notion in your mind that your hair doesn't grow. It is biologically impossible for your hair to not grow unless you have not a mental, what is wrong with me? Unless you have a disorder such as alopecia areata, where you don't grow hair. That's one thing. But your hair, as long as you have hair on your head, your hair is growing. you have to take care of your hair so that it continues to grow and not break off. So that is where protective styles come in. So if I have a client come to me, for example, and they want me to put a protective style in, the most requested protective style that I receive from clients is that they want to have a crochet braid. Now, crochet braids is generally a hairstyle that's done with crochet mesh with the braid pattern underneath. Now with their hair, I have to make sure that their hair is in a healthy state before I do that. If they have split ends and dry hair, I'm going to treat their hair first. I'm going to clip their ends, I'm going to wash their hair and all of those different things to make sure that their hair is as healthy as possible before I put their braid patterns in. Once I do that, then I can put the crochet on top of it and not worry so much about further damage being done. So the next question, I'm going to continue to talk on this because the next question still relates to this topic. Okay. How long? That is an excellent question because, again, the length of time does have something to do with basically, it does have something to do with how significant and healthy your hair will be once you take down the protective style. Protective styles it doesn't always have to include extensions or weaves or wigs or crochet braids either. Braiding your own natural hair is also a protective style. Pulling your hair back into a loose bun and where your ends are pinned underneath is also a protective style because, again, protective styles are intended to protect the ends of your hair so you're not doing too much to it. Okay. Length of time as far as protective styles like weaves and extension braids and crochet braids and natural twist and braids that's in your hair, I recommend no more than 6 to 8 weeks, preferably 6 weeks of wearing the protective style before you should take it down so that you can treat your hair and make sure that it's healthy. Also, if you're going to reinstall another protective style, I suggest waiting a week to give your scalp time to breathe and it possibly heal, because in some cases you may have damage to your scalp from traction alopecia, pulling the hair up and back into ponytails and stuff while it's braiding and stuff. So you need to give your scalp some time to heal and rest, because protective styles are not so protective if it's causing damage to your roots. Okay. Don't get tied up in the word protective and think that you are protecting your hair when you're doing damaging things by doing these styles in your hair. So be very careful. Again, 6 to 8 weeks in a protective style does not mean you don't do anything to protect and treat your scalp. You still have to moisturize your scalp and make sure that it doesn't get all dried out and things like that. So be very careful. The only difference is when you do have a protective style, you want to treat your moisture routine as if you have low porosity hair and concentrate on using lightweight spray mist moisturizers to make sure that you maintain moisture, and use a very light conditioning oil. Don't put too much heavy stuff in your hair. Okay. Okay, so this is one of those questions, and I'm not laughing at the question. I'm laughing at how people react when they see a question like, why would somebody ask that question? To me, it's an excellent question because I wouldn't say it bothers me, but I just be like, when I hear this pronunciation pronounced incorrectly, the proper way to pronounce the word is Faux Locs. I know it looks like it says Fox because there's an A-U and an X in there, but the proper term is Faux Locs, F-O-H, faux. Okay, so that is the proper way to pronounce that word. Faux locks, not fox locks. And sometimes people they say it's so hard, like making sure that they pronunciated it, but it's not fox locks, it's faux locks. Okay, so it's what they say is a French word. So if you look at the name Monroe from a person that's from Louisiana, it's because they're Creole French. So, and you look at the spelling, you're like, that doesn't say Monroe. It does, but yeah. So it kind of has that same mechanism with the word faux. Okay, yeah. Okay, so this question I had already touched on what a crochet braids. Crochet braids is a protective style that is over a braid pattern. So the protective style isn't the style of the hair. It's the braid pattern that's beneath. So you have to be very careful with how you do the braid pattern. I've seen people get pretty sloppy with how they do their braid patterns and not really care so much about that. It was more important the style that was on top of it. But the braid pattern does have some importance to it. You have to make sure that the hair, again, is healthy and that you're using the braid pattern that's not too tight and that can cause some traction alopecia and things like that. So you want it decently tight, but not so tight that it's going to cause discomfort to your client or the person's hair that you are doing. Okay, so you have to be very careful with the braid pattern and not do it too tight, because when you add the hair into it, it also makes it more tight. So yes, that's what crochet braids are. Crochet braids is not, the style is not braids, it's the braid pattern beneath that is the crochet braids. And then the hair that's put on top, it can be anything from loose hair, and generally most people that get crochet braids, it's synthetic hair that's added on top. So it can be braids, it can be twists, it can be faux locks, it can be loose hair like with a nice loose beach wave and or bohemian afro, or different things that can be crocheted and added onto the braid pattern. Okay, so just know that. Okay. Excellent question. How often should you clip your ends? And in short, you should clip your ends as necessary. If you see them start getting really frail and fragile and they look way thinner than the rest of your hair, then it's time to clip, because your hair should pretty much have much of the same pattern from root to tip. It will be slightly thinner on the ends, but not to the point where it becomes translucent and you can see straight through to, it should not be see-through in that. But so yeah, clipping your ends, generally, if you're taking good care of your hair, you can manage to get, when I have my natural hair, I clip my ends maybe once every 3 months. So to make sure that my ends was always healthy. You can get away with doing it twice a year, but generally as needed. So just keep an eye on your hair. Make sure that you keep your ends well moisturized. That's why I said when you are applying moisture, make sure you start with your ends and you work your way up to your roots, because your ends is what needs the moisture more than up here. All of your hair needs it, but you need more down here than up there. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so again, if you start your braid pattern for crochet braids with damaged hair, that's not going to stop damage from continuing to go up the hair. So like think of, what can I use for an example? Okay, incense, for example. When you light an incense, as long as it's lit, the fire is going to keep traveling slowly but surely until there's no more of a stick there with the incense that's packed onto the stick, right? So the same thing with dryness. When you have dryness and dehydration of the hair, think of it as a lit incense. That dryness continues to travel up the shaft of your hair. So like then when you take down the protective braids and you start to comb it out, not only is the shedded hair that normally falls out, because we lose hair on a daily basis anyway, it's just a natural thing. We shed several hundred strands of hair on a daily basis. Just like if you have pets like cats and dogs, you see how they shed their fur. We shed our fur too every single day. So when you take down your hair and your hair is really dry and dehydrated and you're combing it out, break. So you can put the protective style in all you want, but if you're not putting it in with healthy hair, making sure that your hair is healthier before you put it in, make sure you do a good moisturizer on your hair before you put that braid pattern in and things like that, it's going to continue to break. It's not going to stop it from happening. Okay. No, you cannot reverse heat damage. No, you can't. So like if you natural, especially, and you'll see it more with natural hair than you can with processed hair. Heat damage cannot be reversed. And I'll tell you why I said that. Because if you look at your curl pattern on your natural hair, the healthy hair that's not damaged, you're going to see it all curled up. And then you see these string scraggly ends and it's straight, like it's relaxed. And a person can easily think that this person is growing their hair back out so that they can go natural again and they used to have relaxed hair. No, that's not always the case. A lot of times that's heat damage from them doing silk presses all the time and stuff like that and not protecting their hair like they're supposed to be protecting their hair. You have to let your hair rest. You cannot do silk presses all the time. You have to give your hair time to recoup and things like that, because again, heat can kill the keratin in your hair. The keratin is the DNA that makes your hair what it is in every way. So when you start killing those things off, it shows. And once it's visibly seen, there's no reverse. You got to cut that damaged hair off. There's no reversal to heat damage. Facts. This is an excellent question. And the answer to that, again, is no. So here's the thing. Bleach, while your hair will look pretty and beautiful, and I'm not going to lie, I'm going to sit here and hate and say it looks terrible, because it don't. The blonde hair is dope. You know, it looks good on a lot of people, especially my dark skin sisters. I'll be like, oh, you better, girl. However, the chemical in the process of bleaching hair is very stressful. It can cause oxidation and stress of the hair follicles, where your hair literally just falls out at the root from the follicles, because your follicles are not strong enough to hold on to it. It kills keratin in your hair. So when you once had like really tight curls in your hair, now they're really relaxed because keratin. It kills the protein in your hair. That's what makes your hair strong. So that's going to make your hair break off. People say, oh, I can just get keratin treatments. That is a temporary fix. It's like putting a Band-Aid on it. It'll hold on for a little bit and have you feeling healed and all of that, but it don't last forever. And it is a continuous and very expensive process to make sure that you keep some hair on your head. But once the damage is done and you see the breakage and all of that seriousness and stuff, and you have to keep with a massively high moisture routine. Again, now this is one of the things I said when you do to your hair, where you can completely change your hair porosity from a healthy level on low and medium to extremely high, where your cuticles are just, and you constantly have to moisturize your hair so that it doesn't get dry and brittle and fall out. And, you know, that's where you hear, oh, my hair's fried and brittle. And, you know, and then when you try to condition it, it feels like mush. Yeah. Those are the damages caused by the bleach. And like I said, while it looks beautiful when you first put it in, if you don't maintain your hair and keep up with everything that you can possibly do to keep your hair saved and healthy, once the damage is done, it's done. It's not reversible. You got to cut it off, start over again. So be careful. First and foremost, my favorite loose natural brands, I had a few, until I found out who owned the companies and how formulas have been changed and stuff like that. Ingredients are very important to me. So I can't say that I have a favorite because I'm constantly doing research and making sure that formulas didn't change and that ingredients that's dangerous to my health is not and hasn't been added to it, things like that. I have brands that I use very often for the moment. My top 3 that I like to use is Curl Mix, Mael, and I can never pronounce it. I think it's Taji, Tahgji. And also why they are favorites is because they are Black owned. They're still run by the creators of these brands. They have not been sold to corporate America, where formulas have been changed and now, issues are starting to happen with people's hair because of it. But that's a whole nother conversation. But those are 3 that I do recommend a lot of the time. My current favorite product that I use is from Peculiar Roots. It's made for locks, but it can be also used on natural hair. Like a lot of my natural hair clients love for me to use my Peculiar Roots products on their hair because, like I said, it's made for locks, but can be used on everybody's hair. It's not the same like when you buy loose natural hair care products and still use them on your locks. That can't be done. But for this particular brand that I use, it can be. So that's what I love most about it. And also Black owned, and the creator of the line is still holding the ropes and making sure stuff is getting done. But again, read your labels. That's very important. So no matter what I just said to you, read your labels. Okay? All right. My favorite oils. Typically for softening hair, one of my favorite oils to use is Moroccan argan oil, and jojoba oil. Jojoba, Jajoba. It's pronounced jojoba. The J's have an H sound. But those are the 2 top oils I like to use to, keep my hair feeling really soft. So yeah. Also my Peculiar Roots conditioning oil, which has, I believe, both of those oils inside of that conditioning oil. It's a blend of oils, but both of those are 2 of the oils that's in it. And there is also a Moroccan hair oil mask that I use on my hair once a month that keeps my hair feeling so soft and lovely. But I use it on my natural hair care products. I mean, what am I talking about? My loose natural clients also, I use those, the conditioning oil as well as the Moroccan hair oil mask. Yeah. How often you should do a hot oil treatment? That's really up to the person. You can do it as much as once a month, quarterly, twice a year, once a year. That's up to you. You don't have to do it every week. You don't have to do it every time you wash your hair, but once a month minimum, once a year maximum. So yeah, it's pretty nice and leaves your hair feeling wonderful. I don't do hot oil treatments. I do the Moroccan hair oil mask. So it's a conditioner and an oil treatment at the same time. So that's why I like using it. Now, here's a gem, because a lot of people don't even know this. So come closer. The question, as you saw, does ACV make the hair soft? Yeah, it does. Now, here's the thing, though. That don't mean you put your head over the sink and take a bottle of ACV vinegar and pour it straight on your head. Don't do that. When you're using ACV for your hair, it has to be diluted. Pouring it straight on your scalp can damage your hair follicles. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. So let's talk about ACV. ACV, first of all, to dilute it, you want to put 2 tablespoons per cup of water. 2 tablespoons of ACV per cup of water. So if you have a spritz bottle, do it 1 cup at a time. So if you put 4 cups into your spray bottle, then you can put 8 tablespoons of ACV in there. And then, you can spritz it. I like to use it in this mist spray bottle because you can spray it both on your scalp and your hair. It makes your hair soft and keeps product from building up on your hair because the acidic level of it keeps products from creating this barrier where moisture can't get in. So that's why your hair stays soft. It allows moisture to do its job. Now also with ACV, ACV is a natural microbial agent which conditions and treats your scalp in a way to avoid any bacterial buildup to happen, so you don't end up with any kind of a scalp infection such as staph infections or which causes folliculitis, and that shit is painful. I've had people that had that, and unfortunately once it becomes severe you have to go to a doctor to treat it. But it can be avoided, and if it's a mild case, it can be treated by using ACV and spraying it on there on a daily basis directly on your scalp to help break down that. Yeah. But ACV, go and get you a bottle that brags and put it in that mist bottle. Yes, 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 yes. It does do great work for your hair, whether you have loose natural hair or locks. Yeah. Excellent question. Okay, so I've gone through all of my questions, and I am going to answer one last question. I didn't print it before I got to this slide, so I'm just going to say what the question is because someone has asked me this question before, and I had a discussion about this with one of my clients earlier this week. And I'm going to go further into it with a full talk. But again, this comes back to how often you should wash your hair. Make sure that you are not washing your hair more often than once a week if you have locks or loose natural hair. You don't want your hair to become so severely dry because it lacks the essential oils that your body produces on its own. You do not want to strip your hair. So calm down with washing too often. Even if you're using a sulfate-free shampoo, like my hands get dry because I wash them all the time. I'm constantly washing people's hair also. And, so I have to make sure at least a number of times during the week I do need to add oil to my skin to make sure that it's balanced out with the moisturizer. So be careful. Don't go crazy washing your hair. It's not necessary. I know that it is the standard for people who have straighter hair, more European straight hair, because with oil, it doesn't take much oil for their hair to get really oily and stringy, so they're washing that excess oil out of their hair. So they can get away with washing their hair every day, but we cannot. And even with them, I don't recommend washing your hair every day. Once every 2 or 3 days will suffice, not every day. Okay? We've reached the end of our Locks Talk Q&A. Like I said, most of the questions was for loose natural hair, but you heard me throw locks in there a couple of times. So just take care of your crown and it will take care of you. And I'll see you next time on Locks Talk. Until then, bye.